If one person says no and the other person says yes, we listen to the one who's saying no, and we put more thought and time and process into why that would be a no. We're in a time and place where experience matters the most. It's not about your pedigree or your resume. It's truly about experience. There is no experience like the path that you've walked. There's no magic recipe that you can give somebody to inspire success other than me looking back at my 20-something-year-old self and saying, have more confidence, Erinn.
Welcome to Wisdom from the Helm, where we go beyond the typical highlight reels of real estate's most trusted women leaders to reveal the secrets of their success, not just in business, but in life. And today we are so thrilled to welcome Erinn Nobel. Hi, Erinn. Welcome to Wisdom from the Helm. We're so thrilled to have you here today. There is very little intro probably needed to share your story. I know many people have crossed paths with you over your 25-year plus career in real estate, but worth noting, I think that it is so fascinating how you've literally been at practically every single level in this industry, which I think gives you a very unique perspective on the industry itself as well as leadership. You think about your 10 years as an agent. So like you've been there, you've done that. I think you were agent 337 at EXP, which is totally crazy. Did I get that number right?
You did, yes. Good
Oh
job.
my gosh. And then I know you stepped into leadership with them, helping them grow significantly in the Pacific Northwest, and then ending up at Real as their chief culture officer, which is incredible. I mean, these companies that just have been explosive in terms of their growth over the last 10 years. And now you're taking all that brilliance and starting your own brokerage, ENRG, Realty, and putting all those smarts and skills and things you've learned to create sort of the best possible experience for your folks. So we just want to say thanks for joining us today. We can't wait to dive into all the goodness that your wisdom can deliver, and we're so glad you're here.
Thank you so much. It's lovely being here with the two ladies.
Oh, great. I know. When it's just the women,
Yes,
it's awesome. Yeah.
it is.
Okay, so we're going to dive right into this concept of leading from within. It's something we talk a lot about at the Helm. And the question in particular I have for you is, was there like a moment in your career where you realized that the path to success wasn't out there? You know, it wasn't about somebody else or the market or some external factor, but instead it was about how you lead yourself.
I don't know if it was really a defining moment more than something that just came within, like a slow fire burning, where you have confidence. You know there's something out there, there's something bigger that's driving you. I guess it's a driving force. For me, it was just an opportunity, being at the right place at the right time, and then stepping into things, just taking on a leadership role, doing it myself, being
Mm-hmm.
self-motivated and taking charge.
Did you? Because I think there's this idea that is when you're seeing success, it's all yours. When you're seeing failure, it's everybody else's fault. And there's this moment where you realize that actually you have a lot more responsibility and ownership in that than you thought you did. Um, how did that evolve for you over time? Did you have that sort of evolution yourself?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Mm.
absolutely. It's like you're stepping in a mud puddle that's deeper than you think it was, and it's a sinkhole. Uh, Absolutely. And learning to own it and own mistakes and failures
Mm.
is really difficult. It's hard to
Mhm.
overcome, especially for myself. I take things personally and deeply, and emotionally, obviously, but
Mm.
ultimately coming out on the other side of things and looking back on past mistakes, failures, it's all great learning experience. I mean, I would
Mhm.
not give up any of my failures or past experiences to
Mhm.
to have a better experience because I honestly feel that that's what's formed me and guided me.
Yeah, yeah. One more question here. Is there like a specific thing that when you think about how you show up, leading yourself or managing yourself in a situation, um, any sort of insight or experience that you've had that you really go back to time and time again around that?
It's truly, again, Harkening back to that slow burn, that confidence, the inner confidence in myself that took a
Mm,
long time to nurture. I feel like it's a continuous evolution of that.
yeah.
It's also part of changing roles, family
Mm,
dynamics, kids moving out of the house, having more time to focus on myself and do the things I want. So
mhm,
ultimately, it's for me, it's been a timing thing. Uh,
mm,
I feel like now is truly my moment.
Ooh, I love that.
And Erin, I heard you just mention confidence, like finding confidence. I mean, I think that's such a relatable experience and note for so many women leaders. I'm curious if you remember, a time or a specific era of your leadership where you kind of made that pivot, right? You made that
Oh,
shift
yeah.
from, "Whoa, I'm not feeling confident at all," to, "Wait a minute, I got this," right? Like, help
Right.
us, understand a little bit of that from your perspective, how
That's
that worked.
yeah. No, good, really good, deep, meaningful question because I think about this a lot. It's truly an evolution, into coming into your own being, especially as a woman and navigating all of these different life differences, I guess.
Mm,
The shedding of kids, like we were talking about a moment ago. For me, it's truly been a constant evolution. I haven't always been a confident person. It's it's something that I've become emboldened with in my 50s.
mm,
I've got this time now. I've got all of this experience to look back upon. I've got a
mm,
lot of successes to look back upon and a lot of failures, a failed marriage, navigating all of that fun stuff with parenting with an ex. Um, quite honestly, it came upon me like a warm blanket one day
mm,
where it just felt like this is it. This is maybe a cape, like a power cape, and it feels like this is my superpower now. I get to be confident. I get to be this person. I get to own my failures and my successes, and I get to create new things. And there's just a lot of opportunity in front of us.
Do you notice any difference? Like if you imagine now I love how you described that almost like just this warm blanket cloak of confidence, wrapping you. How are you showing up differently with that warm blanket as a leader versus before when you maybe were a little bit more exposed, right? And didn't have that.
Yeah, I think it comes down to not giving shit. I'm not gonna take flack anymore.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to listen to the people I want to listen to. I am going to show up when I need to show up. I'm going to say no a heck of a lot more. I'm going to really
mm,
protect my time, protect my mind, my mindset, all of it. Especially in this world today, there's a lot of noise to live with. So I've become very, very focused, sort of inward, but also very protective of who I surround myself with. People that elevate me and that I can be around to elevate as well.
mm. I really love that. It's like the confidence to say no. I think that, earlier in your career, you feel like you have to say yes to everything. There's like this fear that, like, what if I miss out? What if something happens? What if I don't do this? What if I didn't do that? And so you say yes, 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 until the point where you're so exhausted that you're like, "Wait
Yes.
a minute, this yes strategy, yes, yes, I understand the importance of growing and learning, but it's reached a point where it's not really serving me anymore." And what I hear from you is that it's time to learn what like, you've become more discerning,
Mhm.
with the goal of, preserving your energy, right?
I like the
Yeah.
plan work there too. It really is
Yes.
though, and it's all about all of the relationships, who I want to have a deep relationship with, um, especially women in our lives these
Mhm.
days. There's just a lot of great, meaningful opportunities now to go really deep and support other women, especially in this time where we need to really show up. We need to show up as leaders in our industry. We need to have more of a voice, more of a platform, and just be bold.
Mm. Ooh, say more. Tell us more about that because I think you're gonna get big head nods from the 2 of us on that one, but I'd love to hear you talk about that more, 2 questions follow up for that. Like, 1, what is it about surrounding yourself with powerful, strong women that you find so exciting? And then the second follow-up question is, what do you think the industry needs in terms of more of those voices?
The industry needs more people that listen,
Mm.
more people that just take time. It's just, too tired of the chatter. I really want to hear more people that are educated coming forward with some fresh new ideas, but also really take time to listen to the people that are really having a hard time. People, the agents that are in the trenches, for example. There's been so much change and so much to navigate through this past year, and uh, showing up as a leadership team that has past experiences that can be relatable, I think is something that we honestly need right now.
Oh, one more follow to that. Do you think that women bring a unique sort of skill set around that?
100%. We take the time. We're nurturing, you know?
Mm.
We we just have that skill set, at least I do. Um,
Mhm.
it's just nurturing individuals. I mean, I still save worms from the sidewalk. It's just part of my DNA.
What do you so the set that first question I had for you, what is it about being around sort of ambitious, smart, driven women that really, does it for you, that you just love?
It's just that spark. I'll use like Madeline Albright, for example. She's one of my role models. I always wanted to meet her, and unfortunately,
Mm.
she passed away before that happened. But she had such a absolute spark, and I don't know if you've read her book or not, her biography. Um, she, she was just so human in everything, talking about getting on the airplane to go meet with one of the world leaders and flying around, and she was focusing on a run in her pantyhose at the time. It's obsessing about these things that are just so incredibly human, while bringing such dynamic change and thoughtful leadership to a huge, powerful meeting. Uh, so for me, it's, being relatable on a higher level. Um, and again, it comes back down to that confidence, knowing that you have a space in the room, you have a seat at the table. If there's no seat, make your own table.
When I hear that, especially with women, Danielle and I often talk about how in communities of women or women that are leaders, there's just sometimes more vulnerability that happens, which often drives that relatability that you're talking about, can also inspire more trust. I'm curious, how have you brought some of that into your role? And you have such a unique role now, right? As the leader of this brokerage and kind of overseeing all this culture initiative. How are you doing that, for yourself and modeling that?
It really comes down to leadership through transparency and encouraging honest, open feedback at all times. We're building our company from the ground up with a very, very small shell team of
Mm.
individuals that have followed us from both of our previous companies. So we've got a lot of loyal people here working crazy hours, long days, weekends, etc. And they are truly just inspired to do this new, big, amazing thing. But it comes down to that radical, open feedback and that culture of trust and transparency.
Mm.
I think that's the root of everything.
And as a follow-up to that, I love that we're big fans of Kim Scott's radical candor, and there's a lot of really interesting leaders who are very transparent about that. Curious because I think what happens is, sometimes when you are in the sort of the seat at the top, it's often hard to solicit as much feedback as you want, right? Because people might have fear or they've got stories about how leaders may react to that. How are you inviting, right? And kind of inviting as much feedback as you're really wanting? What are you doing to make that feel safe and normal and, modeling all that?
It's that human approach, it's breaking things down initially, talking about maybe something funny that happened in the morning or an interesting experience that might have just happened. That just breaking down the barriers a bit. Ultimately, it's comes down to, we work for our agents, we work for our staff. We're not taking a top-down approach. That's just not who we are. We just like to encourage that sort of trust and that transparency with everyone.
Yeah, and if you're comfortable sharing it, maybe you're not, but is there anything recently that you've received from a feedback standpoint that really struck you? Like, "Wow, that's really valuable," or
Mm.
surprising, or just really kinda landed
Yeah.
for you
Oh,
in a
no,
way that it hadn't.
absolutely. Absolutely. A lot of times my husband Peter and I get, we're busy, we're on the road, and we're communicating in our team on chat. So we had an experience
Mm,
about a week and a half ago when we were at a conference, and a few decisions were being made that were surprising to us when we got back. That, well, who made this decision and what happened here? And again, we're working with a very small core team, uh, at a rapid pace right now. But they didn't want to involve us because they thought they were going to bother us. So we
mm,
had to take a step back and really work through that. And okay, you're not bothering us. It's okay to reach out. It's okay to bother us and ping us when you're needing to make decisions or need some help. So that definitely
mm.
caused us to pause for a moment and have a reset.
And so cool that they felt okay to share that openly.
Yes, yes, absolutely. That's how things break. So it was a really good learning moment and able, caused us to, create some daily huddles instead of just working in chat.
Did it cause you to consider, Erin, how you were showing up in a way that made them feel like they were bothering you? Like, did you examine, like, gosh, what was I doing that would make them think that?
Yes, I think it was okay. We're here at these conferences and we've got back to back events. Um, there's a lot of exposure for us. We need to be on different time zones as well. That's always a big challenge,
Mm,
respecting other people's time zones.
yeah.
And I think that's just caused them to want to protect us a bit,
Mm,
instead of involve us and bring us in,
mm,
which is
it's
also
awesome.
great. I appreciate that, and fantastic team that
Oh,
we're
yeah.
working with. Uh,
Yeah.
but there's a time and a place.
All right, I've got another one for you. It's around living in integrity. Um, what we mean by that is sort of like this alignment where the things on the inside that who you are matching the things you're doing on the outside. And what we've seen is that when leaders are able to show up in their roles as sort of their whole selves, energy can be so much bigger and higher, and impact can be better. And if those things are not aligned, conversely, it can take so much more energy and oftentimes can lead to burnout. Like if I'm not aligned with sort of who I am on the inside and what I'm doing on the outside. And so I wonder if there is any point in your leadership journey that you can look back and think, wow, that was not me. Like I was doing it, and maybe I was successful, but boy, I was not aligned. Um, and then how did you figure that out and what did you do about it?
Big loaded question. So I would have to say that most of my career has been, living this different path, and I feel like I've been bumping around. It's okay. Oh, I'm in a great spot. This feels fantastic until it doesn't. And then you switch gears and go a different course. And it's all about charting different courses and bumping along those rails until you're in sync and you find that groove. For me, it came down to I need to be the decision maker. I need to own my decisions and chart that path, own the failures, own the successes, and be in that leadership position. It quit working for me to work for other people because ultimately they were putting the guardrails down that I didn't necessarily align with.
Wow. That's awesome. I think that there's people who think that like I should just know who I am right out of the gate, in my career and
Good
I
luck
should
with
just
that.
right, find my way. But the reality is that it's actually the doing, being in these different environments and having these different roles that actually teaches us and helps us understand who we really are and what we want. And so it is sort of a trial and error. It's almost like a test and learn strategy until you get to the point where you're like, yeah, when that moment came for you, because that's a huge realization. Like, it's time. I need to do this myself. I can't
Yes.
take this from somebody else. How did you know that? Like, where did you hear that? Was it like, was there a moment at work where your inner voice just basically
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
nope, we're done here?
Multiple.
Like, what was that like?
Yeah, and I've got, hard boundaries around things like that. I there are things that I absolutely will not tolerate or accept in my life.
Mm.
So that's happened at just about every company I've been involved
Mhm.
with, unfortunately, but that's just
Mhm.
life, right? Whether it's a relationship you're in, an experience you're with, a store that you shop at, there's certain experiences that you love and that are pleasurable, and there's certain experiences that you do not align with. So for me, I shut down and I go inward and I process and I process and I process and I'm, milling over things in the middle of the night until I just wake up and it's like I'm done. So I make decisions very quickly, um, and I know how to honor myself. And I think that's also something that has come with time. It's not something I knew about in my 20s for sure. And it's something I started to feel. Started to kind of seep into my system and my soul in my 30s. And in my 40s, it became much more concrete. And now in my 50s, it's truly defining who I am.
I love what you're describing. It's like this. We talk about this idea of feelings and high achieving women such as yourselves, and the women that we've spoken with. Sometimes it's hard to actually detect, right, what you're actually feeling, right? So you
Hmm.
like, what am I feeling? Because we're so busy doing, right? We're so
Oh, yeah.
busy like achieving, driving, pushing, whatever the thing is, that we ignore all this intelligence in our system that is like red alert, you need to pay attention to something, right? And whether that's frustration or anger or fear or some other version of that in the spectrum, I'm curious about how are you able to sort of invite and welcome feelings, especially in the workplace, right? I think that that's often sort of shut down. There's a lot of, stereotypes around that. And we believe that if you ignore feelings, you're ignoring a huge data set, right? That's critical to your own growth, to your leadership, to your culture. So just, wondering how you've been able to kind of evolve and or if you know, do feel those feelings and invite that into energy.
Mhm, mhm, and for us, energy truly is everything, and we are it's part of the reason why we've named our company Energy. We feel that energy is everything, energy is everywhere, energy is currency, whether it's emotional or monetary, and we need to protect it. Both my husband and I are extremely trusting people to a fault. We know this about ourselves, so we have put a circle of trust around us to help protect us, help inform us, help lead us and guide us as well. Uh, but for us, it's really listening to that inner voice, what that feeling is, what that gut is, and letting us be guided by it, and not if one person says no and the other person says yes, we listen to the one who's saying no, and we put more thought and time and, I guess, process into why that would be a no.
Mm.
Yeah, we like to call that a full body yes, right? And so it's this
Yes,
idea
I
of
love
like
that.
your head, your heart, and your gut are aligned, and it's your
Yes.
whole system is saying yes, right? And if you
Mhm.
one part says no, that's a full body no, right? Like,
Right.
and I love that that's sort of your guide light. That's really
Mhm.
honestly, I think it's really unique. You don't often see that.
I love full body yes, I am so going to use that. That's truly what it is. You feel it from the very top of your head down to your toes, and you know it when it's a yes, and
Yeah.
you absolutely feel it when it trickles in as a no or a hard no. And
Well,
we need to listen to that more. People are not listening to it. It's just I don't understand why they keep putting shutters and boundaries around it and stepping into the no's when you
I
know
think
it's
that
not right.
I think it's hard to detect sometimes, and I think you might be unique in your ability to detect it so easily, um, and I think that's something you learn over time,
Oh, it
right?
is. I
Like,
mean, not to say I
yeah,
haven't done it. I mean, I've stepped into many no's
yeah,
for sure, but it's getting out of that no as quickly as possible.
mhm, mhm,
I wonder, for me, as I think reflect back, the feelings, and this is unique as to everyone and how their composition and who they are as a human, but I think sometimes there's this idea that feelings aren't allowed,
Oh, sure.
especially in business. Like,
Hmm.
not allowed. You do not get to make decisions based on how you feel. It must be all about facts, the intellectual side. Like, I can sit down and I can do the pros and I can do the cons and I can run the numbers, and that's it. That's how we make decisions. But to your point, what you and Heather are discussing, it's that, heart and gut, which is really synthesizing data that you just can't fully grasp. There's data in that, but we culturally, I think, especially in business and maybe especially in the US, don't see value in it. And so I think
Right.
people learn to shut it off.
Hmm. They
Mhm.
absolutely do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And uh, for me, it just comes down to protecting yourself from a lot of that noise. And
Mhm.
also, you do you. Don't listen to a lot of it. I mean,
Mhm.
there are people out there that invented these creative pathways that we're supposed to take, these routes that we're supposed to go. I'm going to do me this time. I am not going to follow the traditional
Mhm.
path. I am not that person. I am going to absolutely trust my gut and step into the yes.
That's amazing and powerful, I think,
And
to
fun.
be surrounded by that. Yeah, and fun. I think, we talk a lot about play and bringing more fun in, and, that I think as a way of managing your own energy, which clearly is a priority for you and what you're building over there, you know, bringing play in, knowing when to rest, right? Those aren't luxuries. Those are actually necessities for managing energy effectively. So in your path, I was looking at the pictures you sent over, which look like you just have so much joy being outside and fishing and boating and being on the water. I'm curious, in your journey, how have you been able to recognize, whoa, I'm low. I'm running on empty. I'm teetering on burnout. I need to go recharge. How do you, one, recognize that? And then what do you do to sort of refuel and bring that back up?
Yeah, I start running low when I'm in back-to-back meetings all day long, sitting in front of the computer, not moving my body. I really like to be physical. That's why we got puppies 2 years ago, so it would force me outside to go for walks constantly, break away from the computer. So I know I'm running low when it's a lot of travel, a lot of computer time.
Mm.
I'm a social person as well, so I love face-to-face meetings and being in a room with people and just, this sort of thing. My my favorite way of recharging is being in nature, but being on the water, being way out in the Gulf of
Mhm.
Alaska, fishing. That is
Mm.
absolutely my favorite place to be thus far.
Mm.
But being out, watching the mountains come right out of the water there. You never know what you're gonna pull up fishing. The
Mm.
water is just glacial water, beautiful. That is my
Mm.
favorite place to be.
Mm.
A few days of fishing hard, soul tank is fully recharged and ready to go.
Mm. And is that something that you sort of make public and just display for your whole team? What a gift if you are doing that for them, to sort of model and say, "Hey, this is really critical for you."
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we really encourage everybody to take time for themselves and recognize that fact when they're running low. We check in multiple times a day. How's everybody doing? Especially right now, we've got people just really making a lot of sacrifices to get energy off the ground, and we appreciate that and we reward that. Unfortunately, not with time right now, but we understand when breaks are needed and there's time to reflect. So lots of check-ins. Again, comes down to that transparency, creating that culture of belonging and a culture of radical open feedback. That safety zone.
I mean, obviously, you can't get away to your favorite spot in the world anytime you want. So I think about, like, the reality of day to day. Do you have any rituals or approaches to your day that help you maintain that energy, between those wonderful breaks?
I do, and it's truly walking the dogs. It's
Mm.
lovely. I have to do it, otherwise we will have accidents. So that's really forced me to get outside, go walk the trails that we live right next to, whether it's, raining or blowing or snowy. But it forces me to get outside, and I love it. I get my 10,000 steps in every day, even though I'm planted in
Mm.
front of the computer most of the time.
Wow. You get 10,000 in every day, even with your schedule.
That's just walking the dogs. Yes. Not going to the
Mm.
gym, which I've failed to do yet this year.
It's interesting how you said how, like, just being outside, does that for today, where we live, it was 6 degrees this morning,
Oh,
and I had
perfect.
this moment where I was like, "Should I go? Should I not go? Should I take the dog?" And then I went out, and it was so quiet, and there was snow, and everything was really beautiful, and even though it was very cold, it was almost like the frigidness was part of this, like, really good experience because it just, like, makes me feel alive. Like, I wonder if that's how you might describe that experience for you.
It is. It's everybody's raised differently, and everybody has, a special place where they kind of feel like they belong in the environment. Uh, Being raised in Alaska, I could totally relate to that cold, crisp air, the crunchy, crunchy, dry
Mm.
snow, and I could see it. It's just nothing like it, but being peaceful, taking deep breaths, taking time for yourself, reminding yourself that, there's so much more out here that's bigger than us. It's just this path that we're creating right now, and we've got the choices in front of us to choose who we want to surround ourselves with, and how we want to create our days, how we want to
Yeah.
spend our time. It's
I have a
great.
question. You know, in careers, I think a lot of us have Danielle and I will refer to these as stories, right? Limiting beliefs, things that we're subscribing to, whether it's, if I'm going to be successful, I have to work 60 hours, or, I shouldn't speak up in this meeting when certain levels are around me, or I shouldn't show emotion, right? There's just all these beliefs that we bring to the table in our careers. And sometimes they stick with us and sometimes we let them go. But most often they do limit us in some way, right? Especially if we're not aware of them. And so I'm curious if any of that resonates. Have you had or noticed any specific stories or beliefs that you might have been carrying into your career? And how have you sort of managed that or let those go over time?
Mhm, mhm. A lot of them, and some of them are kind of funny looking back. Early in my career, I got my real estate license in 1999, and I was interviewing at a really nice luxury boutique brokerage here in Bellingham, and I was told after the interview that my feedback was I needed to wear more lipstick and pantyhose. And at the time, I just processed that, and I was like, because pantyhose were still kind of on the cuff. It's like, "Do you wear them? Do you not wear them?" I chose not to wear them, obviously. And lipstick, really? But I internalized that,
Mm.
and, um, it goes back to part of that story, and, what's okay, what's not okay. Really, in the workplace at that time, it was fitting back then. Now things have transitioned to more of, "Oh, do you deserve a seat at the table? What's your background? What's your history? What's your degree in?" So there's a lot of chatter around that. You are what you make yourself. Uh, if you feel you deserve a seat at the table, make the chair, make it happen. Um, I don't have a high level college degree. I have a hell of a lot of experience, from being in the trenches as an agent to forming a team to, being in positions where I created leadership opportunities. I created the roles. But really, we're in a time and place where experience matters the most. It's, it's, not about your pedigree or your resume. It's
Or
truly about the
your
experience.
lipstick?
Or your lipstick. Might be about the pantyhose, though. Still on the fence about that one.
I mean, that's a wild response, right? And I imagine in the moment, it's almost like this feels off, but is it off, right? Because you're somebody who's presumably successful across the table from you is giving you this feedback. And so how, and I'm sure that not so literally was translated as, it's more about what I look like versus my experience or my capabilities. How were you able to let that go? At what point in your career did you make that pivot to what you described just now of I'm going to create my own seat, right?
It took a lot of years. I was still having babies and 3 children, all real estate babies, all kind of grew up crawling around the office floor. Um, so a lot of it was, okay, there was things in the workplace that just weren't allowed at that time, nursing in the office, being available. I had to be present, physically present for our sales meetings where I was trying to get out of the house and get the kids off to school, and the timing just didn't sync up, but I would be, kind of penalized for not being there in time or being 10 minutes late.
Mhm.
So that took a lot of years to work through because women weren't as not necessarily, well, they weren't as respected as what they're doing behind the scenes, raising the family, raising the kids, truly doing it all. I think we're in a much better spot now, having come through all of this, where people understand how much women bring to the table. And so, back then it was a kind of a generational thing, just
Mhm.
learning from that, growing with it, understanding that, okay, these are past generations and this is how they were brought up too. It's not their fault.
Mhm.
Just was a time and place, and kind of just throw in the garbage. It's not worthy of even dwelling on, the lipstick and the pantyhose, although it's funny.
There's this again, it kind of goes back to what you were talking about earlier. It's like almost like you have to test and learn. Like, especially early, you're going to be fed a lot of things, rules that turn into maybe stories for yourself,
Mhm.
and you're going to have to try them all on. And you have to say, okay, does this one fit? Oh, no, that doesn't feel quite right. That's not for me. Or maybe we hold on to some for even longer than we thought because sometimes those stories are subconscious, like we forget that they're
Mhm.
stories.
Oh, for sure.
But I do think there's this like you have to like bump around there's no magic pill. It's not like, Erin, you could go to a young woman who is part of your business who's getting started and just like magically give her the recipe and be like, here it is. You don't have to suffer any of this. It's like, nope, she has to like go through and test all of these things for herself and then figure it out. And I think the key is not getting the story right or wrong, but more as like getting to the point where you can start to see them as stories because of that testing. It's like the consciousness around it is what becomes more important than, like, getting the story right or wrong. Does that resonate?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah, it's the path, and for me, it's been those guardrails, those bump rails. Uh, it's speed bumps as well. It's all of it, but there is no experience like the path that you've walked. There's absolutely no magic recipe that you can give somebody, to inspire success other than maybe me looking back at my 20-something-year-old self and saying, "Have more confidence, Aaron. Trust yourself, trust your inner voice, like, really trust it, really listen to it, and surround yourself with people that lift you up."
Yeah, support sounds important here.
Mhm.
Heather, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about coaching. I mean, support is huge.
I mean, we talk a lot about coaching. We love coaching ourselves. We've all had, many different coaches, and I think a lot of the leaders that we're talking to have experienced coaching in many different ways throughout their career. Some of it has really been impactful. Some of it is, what we've heard has not been so great sometimes. So curious, what has your experience been with coaching and what has that impact been on your growth, on your perspective as a leader?
Honestly, it's been, very little. I have never had a professional coach. I've never been
Ooh.
involved in coaching. I was part of the Buffini program very briefly, but it did not work out for me. So I am a newbie to coaching.
Mm,
I I read a lot,
mm,
and I'm inspired by Brene Browns and, the leaders the female leaders that are out there. For me, that's translated into my own private coaching
Mhm.
circle, but it's nothing I've ever been involved in. So it's something I'm definitely, interested in jumping into.
Mm.
Awesome. And what was it about your early coaching experience with Buffini that just didn't resonate for you? Was it out of alignment for you? Was
It
it
was
just
out
like
of
these aren't my
alignment. I
people?
wasn't
Okay.
I wasn't in sync with things at the time. I think I had 2 babies and was pregnant with another and, trying to do all these real estate tasks that just didn't work with my time. They didn't work with my schedule. Um, didn't feel me.
Yeah, that's true. And what you did mention is that you've created a bit of this private sort of network or community that may be acting as your coaching
Yes.
network.
Yes.
Tell us more about that. How did you find these women, and how do you engage regularly, and what kinds of things are they supporting you with?
Kind of stumbled upon them, really. It's those magical moments. I mean, Danielle and you and I discovered each other one day and just we had a really magical, powerful conversation that was so joyful. I still look back to it these days. It's moments like that that I seek, and then those women or people become part of that inner group, that inner circle.
Mhm.
But I look for the magic, I look for the spark. It's gotta be there.
Mm.
Otherwise, I just don't trust it, and I'm not inspired by it.
That makes a lot of sense. So your intuition is so strong there, listening to that gut.
Yes, very much so. I think that's a later in my life thing.
Mm. I find it so I'm always shocked at how hard it can be to find it. Like, I talk about this with people all the time. I was just talking to a retired, but looking for her new thing, CFO from the tech world last week. That was an intro through somebody I knew. And she and I were talking about how hard it can be to find your group of women who are at your level, right? Who have your level of seasoning, who have seen the world the way you've seen it, and connecting with those folks in ways that can be very impactful. Even if you're dealing with different things, but you
Mhm.
you have a shared experience. And I keep thinking to myself, it shouldn't be this hard.
Mm-mm.
It
No.
should not be this hard to
It should not.
find these women. And so something Heather and I have talked a lot about is, how can the Helm start to help with this? Because we need to find each other and we need to deliver what you're getting, which is that shot of energy. It is inspiration. It is sharing of ideas and intellect that you reach a point in your life where like coaching in like the more traditional real estate sense just isn't what you need. You don't need an accountability coach
Right,
to help
right.
you figure out what your goals for the week are and then show up to make sure you did them. Like you're operating at a much higher level with a much different sort of take in the world. I wonder if you felt frustrated by that too.
Frustrated, it's actually caused me to pause and think about it. I think for a lot of women, there there's some protection or protectiveness that's going on.
Mm, mhm.
They work so hard to get where they are. There are not a
Uh,
lot of women at the top, we know this. They work so hard to get where they are, and
mm,
they protect it at all costs, and they
mm,
don't want to let anybody else in because they're either,
mm,
they're threatened, perhaps, they're insecure. I mean, there's just a lot of reasons why there are women that are just guarded and don't choose to let others in, and I've experienced that pretty recently as well. It's always surprising to me to meet another woman that's either not supported or guarded at this level in my career. It's
mm.
sad. I'm not like that, and I'm not ever going to be like that. I don't believe in leading that way. I think we're all here as nurturing people to help others and lift each other up, and I am not threatened by anyone. I'm just here to be genuine, to create more love in the world, honestly, create more space for women at the top.
Yeah, I think we've talked a lot about this with other folks about how, to your point, like there just aren't always it doesn't look like there's many seats available. And so women have worked so, so hard to get what in their mind are just a couple seats. And
Hmm.
so I think there can be this idea that there's this scarcity mindset that if there's only a couple, then I have to protect it with all my might, even if there's other women. Whereas if we can somehow work together to flip the perspective that, well, that story was a lie. That it's a
Hmm.
lie that there's only room for a couple of you. There's actually room for all of you. And when you can reframe it that way, I think it makes it easier to step into connection with other women and drive that supportive network versus feeling like I gotta keep mine.
Yeah, completely agree with that.
I wonder too if it's like it's a maturity, as you've talked to Erin, in your 50s and kids are out of the house. I think your exact words were, "I don't have any more shits to give." Like you you start to let go of the lie, right? And it starts to feel lonely, right? Kids are leaving, people are busy, people start spreading out geographically in the world. And I think that there's this seeking that happens of deeper connection, right? Like now that I have more space and time and freedom and it's not so transactional and I'm not shuttling people everywhere all the time, wow, what my heart wants is actually deep connection and I need to go seek that, right? And I think earlier in your career, the lie is easy to believe because it's like, well, I'm so busy anyway, I don't have time for all that, right? Like
Right.
there's some of
Sure.
that there.
So much of that there. So, and it's easy to just, shelter yourself from that. And
Yes.
now it's truly understanding that, okay, I'm at this space in my life. I've got this great opportunity for myself, energy wise and um, time wise, all of it for the next, 10, 15, 20 years where I've got space for me. It's my time. But I also have, aging parents.
Mhm.
My father-in-law is 97. We're going to go visit him here shortly in the Netherlands. So
Wow.
it's very much a factor in things. My mom has dementia. So there are all of these distractions, I guess. They're not really distractions, but it's other actions that you want to focus on. So time really truly becomes a priority, and it's become very concrete and clear to me and crisp now in my 50s that I have more limited time. I'm just highly selective on how I spend it. And I
Mhm.
wasn't thinking about that in my 20s or my 30s or my 40s. It was honestly, you're right. It's the busy times. Now it's different busy.
This is, something totally separate, but it just popped into my head as you were talking. You have worked really closely with your husband, um, over the course of like, really closely,
Yeah,
over
really
the
close.
course of some of the yeah, which I think is not totally unusual in real estate. You often find, husbands,
Yeah.
wives or partners working together. I wanted to ask you, what's the secret of making that work for the 2 of you?
Don't know. We met each other one day and my arm slipped into his and we just started walking. And our cadence is a match. We just fit. We're totally different people, completely different brains, but I complete his thoughts. We're in each other's minds. We're those creepy people that, you know, just can communicate without talking. Probably kind of weird to be around, quite honestly, but I don't know. We stumbled upon something that I'd never experienced in my life, and it's so good, and we work so well together. And yeah, he exasperates me. He'll leave the yogurt container in the sink, drive me batty. Um, but we just think we just have a really good thing.
Your motors matched. I love the way that you described it. It's like you're both at the same speed and that, like, works. Like, you're running together.
We're absolutely running together. A very different arenas of the company as well. I mean, most of the time we don't see each other. We don't talk to each other for many hours during the day, and we sync up at night and just talk shop and work through problems, and we have very different problems to work through, and it's just a tremendous amount of fun. I'm having the time of my life right now. So fun.
That's awesome. Heather, do you want to close us out with our final question?
Yeah, I mean, you answered this a little bit earlier, but we'll ask it again. In this state where you are, in this 50s version of Erinn, looking back to the 20s version of Erinn, what's the advice? What's the wisdom from the helm, so to speak, that you would give to her?
Make time for yourself. Cherish those moments. Cherish those special moments that really, truly fill your soul. Make those a priority. Quit worrying about the weight. Quit. Just shed the things, shed the chatter from outside. Make sure you've got context around, the right channels of information, and make sure you've got a really great support network that is your tribe, that is in your corner. It doesn't have to be large. It could be just a couple of people. But they're so important, so critical for not only success, but for staying true to who you are. Your beacons.
That's great. Thank you.
That's awesome. I'm sure we would love to spend more time with you, but we want to be respectful. So, that's all we've got for today. Thank you for sharing, just like your truth and your wisdom and spending time with us. I know so many people will be excited to hear about it. And I also wanted to share where people should find you and the work that you're doing so that we can make sure to share that as well.
This is great. And gosh, thank you both so much for having me. I've had a blast being on here. Really love what you're doing. Love supporting women like yourselves as well. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm old school. Yes, I'm on Instagram, all that good stuff, but I love LinkedIn. That's my platform. So Erinn Nobel. You can also find out more about what we're building at ENRG.realty, and that's ENRG.realty. And no, it doesn't stand for Erinn Nobel Realty Group.
I do love that it all came back to energy. Like that was kind of a theme through the
Mhm.
whole, like not even purposefully, but I just love that energy was the theme sort of through this whole thing. And we
Yes.
wish you really well.
Thank you, Danielle.
Yeah.
Thank you, Heather.
So much essence in you brought forward in that name and that culture and company. So really fun watching that today. Thanks.